Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Well, this is the broadcast we have all been waiting for, and I'm going to recommend that you send this out to all of your contact list, to all of your friends, especially those people that you love, especially those people that perhaps wouldn't listen in the past, because here we are. First of all, the refresher here. As you recall, July the 10th, 2012, we had Pastor Shane Warren in to make a DVD called Storm, Judgment, and Revival. You can get it at prophecyclub.com or watch it instantly at watchprophecyclub.com. He said essentially three things. He said that you're about to see dollar bills blowing in the wind, worthless as leaves. Following that, there would be an earthquake in the New Madrid Fault, and then there would be the crash of the dollar. And what would crash that dollar would be when they started selling oil in something other than dollars. Following that would be a major revival. Well, get a load of this. Last Wednesday, my agent called me. He has information that grocery store management has been ordered to actually cause delivery interruptions in the grocery store industry on purpose, and that within 2 or 3 weeks, you'll begin to see shortages in grocery stores. Well, I didn't have enough information to put that on the air, so we put that on the shelf, but today we take that off of the shelf. August 23rd, 2021, HalTurnerRadioShow.com. Headline, Intentionally Creating a Food Shortage. The United States Department of Agriculture is intentionally creating a food shortage. They are sending, quote, destruction letters to American farmers telling them that they have X number of days to, listen to this, destroy their crops in the ground. I'll say it again, to destroy their crops in the ground, for which they would be paid 1.5 times, as in almost twice as much, than the crop value, or face losing farm subsidies in the future, which will bankrupt the farm. In other words, the farmers are being forced to destroy the current crops in the ground. There's more. Again, HalTurnerRadioShow.com, August 24th, 2021. Here it is. As you recall, Shane Warren was told, when they stop selling oil for dollars, that will crash the dollar and bring great financial difficulty. Here it is. Headline, The Black Swan event has taken place. Destruction imminent. He says on Tuesday, August 24th, something happened that is, and history will record it as being, the, quote, Black Swan event for the United States. Saudi and Russian officials Tuesday announced the signing of military cooperation pact between the two countries. Saudi Defense Minister announced the agreement on Twitter, stating that it would aid in, quote, developing joint military cooperation between the two countries. In a second tweet, he elaborated on his meeting with his Russian counterpart, in which the pair explored ways to strengthen the military and defense cooperation between our two countries. Few people understand exactly what this means and what the results will be for the United States. Well, we prophecy students, we understand because we've known this for 11 years now. In order to understand this in its proper context, you need to go back in history to the 1970s to grasp how and why there was created what came to be known as the petrodollar. The emergence of the petrodollar dates back to the early 70s, when the U.S. arranged an agreement with Saudi Arabia to standardize the sale, listen carefully, the sale of oil based upon the U.S. dollar. Petrodollar recycling creates demand for U.S. assets when dollars received for oil sales are used to buy investments in the United States. The reason the petrodollar came into existence was because Saudi Arabia wanted protection. They wanted the protection of the United States military against what was the big, bad Soviet Union. In return, they would agree that the U.S. would protect Saudi Arabia and agreed to sell oil worldwide, here it is, only in U.S. dollars. Now, let me put that in terms you and I understand. So, Saudi Arabia wanted the U.S. military protection, so they agreed to only sell their crude oil in U.S. dollars. Now, what does that do? That means that every country in the world has to have lots of dollars on hand in order to buy and sell their crude oil. That means the value of the dollar is very strong and goes up. Well, what's the reverse of that? Well, that's what's in the process, not about to, in the process. I said in the process of happening. He goes on to say the agreement has been in place ever since then. But as a result of the Saudis doing this, all oil sales to and from and between every country in the world has been done in U.S. dollars. In order for countries to buy oil, they had to exchange their currency for U.S. dollars, then pay for that oil in U.S. dollars. Conversely, if countries sell oil, they receive U.S. dollars for that sale. In other words, it makes the U.S. dollar the primary reserve currency of the world and very much in demand. Now, he goes on to say, this system has for decades caused literally every country in the world to have to hold U.S. dollars in their currency reserves. To grasp the impact of this, one only needs to realize that trillions of U.S. dollars are presently held all over the planet so countries can engage in oil transactions. Oil they need to run their countries, oil they must have, which they need and they will sell. Now they will begin to sell their trillions of dollars. So now Saudi Arabia has signed a defense pact with Russia. Follow through this thought. So Russia can now protect the Saudis just as well as the U.S. did. And Russia won't walk away from the people like they just saw them walk away from Afghanistan. So now Russia will protect the Saudis. The Saudis no longer need to sell their oil in U.S. dollars, which means, here it is, which means countries all over the world don't need to hold excess U.S. dollars. They don't need to have dollars at all. So what do you suppose is going to happen? Trillions of those dollars are about to start coming home. Trillions of those dollars are about to be flooding the market. Now let me go back here. What did Shane Warren get told? He said the scene changed, and I was taken to a room in the Middle East, and I was shown India, Syria, Indonesia, Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Egypt, Russia, China, all agreed to stop selling oil in dollars, stop selling oil in dollars, and trade oil in gold, and the dollar collapsed. Well, now, we haven't heard anything about the trading of oil for gold, but that's what's really going on behind the scenes. The point is, they're walking away from the dollar. The point is, we now know how the dollar is about to crash, and it is now in the process of crashing. Let's go on with the article. It will be a literal tidal wave of cash coming home. No one needs it anymore. What will that tidal wave cause here in America? Well, hyperinflation. No, not hyperinflation, mega uber hyperinflation. See, what Saudi Arabia did is the black swan event for the United States. Everyone around the world will want out of their U.S. dollars. The value of our currency is about to begin plummeting. Saudi Arabia, in one quick move, smashed our currency into what will quickly become a death spiral. Sure, everyone will try to keep the flow slow and manageable, but that has zero chance of working. And more countries are going to start cashing out. And before long, the rest of the planet starts seeing the value of the U.S. dollar plummeting, falling like a rock. It will be a veritable tsunami of inbound cash. You remember what Shane was told. He was shown it's raining dollar bills. It's almost like they're worthless. They're worthless. It was raining dollar bills. They're blowing in the wind, worthless as leaves. He says, now, I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and by the way, I'm not either, and I'm not giving any financial advice on this or any other Prophecy Club program. We're talking Bible prophecy. He says, I'm not a stockbroker or any kind of professional in matters of finance, but you should consult with licensed professionals before you make any move that can affect your financial stability. I can, however, guess. I can guess at what's coming. Put simply, everything denominated in dollars is going to quickly become utterly worthless. Your bank accounts, IRAs, 401s, stock portfolios, all of it. It seems to me, and again, I'm not a professional, seems to me like the best thing for people to do is to turn it into something that is not dollars. No, I'm not telling you to go out and buy gold or silver. Government can confiscate that. You recall Daniel Davis said that he saw people bartering. And you recall recently Coverstone was shown people bartering. And then we had Jason Meeks, and he was also shown people bartering. In other words, they're trading. Why? Because the dollars are worthless. They can't trade in dollars anymore. So you need to think that through. One of the best things that's always going to be good is going to be some kind of precious metal. But as you recall, Shane Warren was told, and we've been saying this for 11 years now, that he heard the audible voice of God say that silver is going to skyrocket far more than gold. Having a handful of silver coins is going to be pretty good stuff to barter with, because that's probably going to become the new currency, at least for a little while. He says those who do nothing will find themselves left with nothing. So why do you think BlackRock is out there buying up all the single-family homes they can get their hands on? They know what is coming, the destruction of the U.S. dollar. We're heading into the greatest financial upheaval in human history, and I have no idea where it'll lead to or how it will end. I suspect, he says, it will lead to massive war, gigantic social upheaval. They will do anything to survive. The fastest, easiest thing that they will resort to will be coming after your stuff. Get out from and away from the cities. Now, I disagree with that. As you know, the prophecies say that the cities, specifically the churches, are become cities and churches of refuge. So I disagree with him on that. So let's think through this a little bit. You can only go about 3 minutes without air, so that's the first thing you have to think about. Do you have some kind of an air filter? So if there's something in the air, you can filter it out, like maybe some kind of ash floating around after a suitcase going off or a volcano going off. There's all kinds of things that can put contaminations in the air. The next thing, you can only go about 3 days without water. So that means you need to have water. And by the way, the number one thing that kills people in emergencies or disasters is drinking contaminated water. And I recommend the Berkey, which, by the way, we have some Berkeys in stock. And most places have been out of stock for a long time. Matter of fact, they already told us after our Berkeys are gone, don't count on any more coming anytime soon. Well, that's the big thing, is going without food. Shane Warren said silver is going to skyrocket far more than gold. Again, we're not giving you financial advice, but if you want to get some kind of precious metal, we will send you to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Just say Prophecy Club when you call. And also, just boiling water and adding to freeze-dried foods is a pretty convenient meal. And I just checked with heavensharvest.com, and yes, they have plenty in stock when most people are out. Just use the promo code STAN. heavensharvest.com, promo code STAN. Also, if you don't want your computer chips to be fried from some kind of an EMP pulse, like coming from a suitcase nuke, then you go to empshield.com. Promo code there is prophecy. These are all dreams that have come to us here very recently, and they're all talking about shortages of food. Jason Meeks, 8/20/21, as in just a week or so ago. He says, I was at the local deli where I eat most of the time, and as usual, the same usual order, the same usual cost, $13, but this time it was $75. I had my friend come in, he ordered the same thing, $75. Jason Meeks again, 5/17/2021. Now this guy lives in Kentucky, not Texas. He said, I had a dream, I was lifted up into the sky, and I saw the outline of the state of Texas. I saw 3 small nuclear detonations hit what I had to look up to find out was Dallas, Fort Worth, and Lubbock. After the explosions, I saw people walking. No cars on the road. Well, why would that be? Because the computer chips and the cars got fried. People were walking to the cities for refuge and food and water and the basics of life and safety for themselves and their families. Another one, Jason Meeks, 7/30/2021. The dream started out, we'd stopped at an ATM machine to get some cash. I put in the card, I got $20. But then I realized I needed more, so I put it back in, got another $20, but now the receipt showed a $42 fee, meaning dollars are going away. He's not the first one to say that. He said, as we drove back home, we stopped by a major bank, and I began to see TV screens showing massive arrests going on. An alert went out on the cell phone that DJT was assuming control as the new president. I expected people would start rioting and looting and burning, but they were happy. People were celebrating in the streets, almost like the day after a great war. In the dream, a man came to me and started crying, saying all of his bosses had been arrested, rounded up. He was in charge of the bank now. He was a Christian. He said he'd been praying for this for years. Now let's go to Dana Coverstone, June 15th, 2021. The dream started with a sunny sky and Wall Street in the background. Everything was clean and proper and businesslike. I saw normally dressed people on the sidewalk standing behind several 6 to 8 foot long white tables. Behind the tables were live chickens, fenced-in areas for horses, rack of eggs, tools, various meat and vendor products. There were customers lined up buying and trading and bartering, but they weren't using dollars. I saw a man walk up with 5 12-gauge shotgun shells and trade them for 10 small chickens. Another lady traded 5 hammers for 15 boxes of screws and bolts. A gentleman in a very expensive suit took off his Rolex and traded it for 15 horses. The man trading the horses said was probably worth more like 30 horses instead. There were no vehicles on the road. Notice there's another one that says no vehicles on the road. Why? Probably suitcase nukes. There were no vehicles on the road, but plenty of people riding bikes and skateboards, and everyone was treating each other with respect and kindness. A lady walked up and she seemed frustrated. She needed eggs desperately, but had nothing to trade for them. So another lady grabbed 10 eggs and handed them to her, and the lady cried and hugged the lady back for giving her the gift. Now, let me skip some. Then the man that I see unfurled an umbrella, stood under it to shield himself from the rain that was not pouring on the ground. He says, "You are not as prepared as you need to be. So hearken to my word and embrace. Don't barter with my word, as you will come up short." Okay. This is an angel speaking to Dana Coverstone, if you can accept that. So the angel is saying to each one of us, we are not as prepared as we need to be. So you need to be thinking through what you need to have to get prepared. So I'll refresh your memory. If you're needing freeze-dried food, there's very few people that have it right now, but heavensharvest.com does have it, promo code STAN. Heavens Harvest, promo code STAN. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com does have gold, silver, palladium, rhodium, those kind of things, and can work with you on your retirement, turning into precious metals. And if you need some kind of shield for your computer chips, EMPshield.com, promo code there is prophecy. EMPshield.com, prophecy. HeavensHarvest.com, promo code STAN. Cornerstone Asset Metals, just mentioned Prophecy Club. And here is Mike Adams saying that 137 nations have agreed to simultaneously reject the USD. This is going to happen before the end of 2021. He points out that earlier crises happened in 1997 and 2008 were handled. But the catchphrase then was certain banks were, quote, too big to fall. But in the next failure, he says the phase is going to be too big to bail, as in bail out.
I was contacted by a person, well, someone I've known for many years, but they said there's 137 countries, I think, that have all agreed to ditch the US dollar all on one day coming. Should this happen, the dollar would literally collapse overnight in the same way the old former Soviet Union suffered a collapse on its national debt. You would wake up one morning and there would be no functioning financial system in the United States or even much of the world for that matter. The dollar would be worthless and the federal government would be unable to create new money, just to keep printing trillions of dollars that have any value because no one would be buying the debt. And they told me this day is this year, this calendar. You're going to wake up, the dollar is denounced essentially by 137 countries, and the dollar dominance of the world is over.
You folks that listen to Prophecy Club have been hearing us talk about this for years, but now let's go back to October 2012. As you recall, Daniel Davis, a missionary out of Costa Rica, said he saw in this vision a man step to the microphone and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. America, as you have known it, has ceased to exist. All property lines have been dissolved, and the U.S. dollar is worthless." When the people heard this, they began to panic. I was suddenly standing in front of a gas station. The convenience store looked like any other convenience store. It had a high fence attached to one side of it with barbed wire across the top of it. Inside the fence, I saw tractors, power equipment, lawnmowers, chainsaws, all kinds of different things that had clearly been traded. I was standing beside an Indian man who was clearly the owner and manager of the convenience store. Frantic people were pulling their vehicles up to the fuel pumps and buying gas. My intuition told me that they were heading west. Then, an SUV pulled up with an open trailer in the back. An entire family was in the vehicle, all worried. They had thrown all their belongings into the trailer, strapped items on the vehicle, and heading west. The father jumped out of the SUV and came to the man and said, "I need a full tank of gas." He pulled out his billfold with U.S. dollars. Does that make sense with what we're talking about? The father looked concerned and asks, "What do you take then?" The manager says, "Well, what do you have?" The father and the manager both walked over to the trailer, and the man knew he was going to give the man anything he wanted. Well, does that make sense with what we're hearing right now? Oh, Stan, come on. That can't be really about to happen, can it? Well, the Bible says in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. So let's go to March 15th, 2014. Now, this is a prophet that I've had in my home a couple of different times, a speaker a couple of different times, made several DVDs with the Prophecy Club. I'm talking about Prophet Maurice Sklar. Here's what he was shown in a vision. There was widespread looting and gangs roaming about everywhere with guns, stealing whatever food and supplies they could find. Then I saw what looked like elite riot police by the thousands go into the communities, even the cities, and force people out of their homes, and brought them out into what looked like concentration camps. Some, but not all of these, quote, police armies had light blue helmets on. Hundreds of thousands of people were arrested in this way. Many would not cooperate, and they were simply shot dead, left in their homes. You'll recall this one, too. This comes from Jason Meeks, 5/11/2021. Stan and I and 20 other people were in the back of a grocery store in this dream. The group walked from the back into the main grocery store to purchase some Tang, which should have cost about $1, but the price was $5.99. Matter of fact, we saw all the prices of the goods on the shelves were at least 30 to 40% higher than last week. We all bought the item and headed back, but instead of finding full stocked shelves, instead, they were all cleaned out. People had their food protected by 2x4 boards and chicken wire. Not that that's going to keep anyone out. It's just simply dividing whose is what. There were crackers, old canned goods, non-perishable food items, all kinds of random items, all new. One man was selling the goods at super high prices, not trying to cheat people, just trying to survive himself. This was his only job, just reselling items that he had recently purchased just to make a little profit. Then March 2021, David Phillips said he had this dream. He said, "My family and I went on a small vacation, like a camping trip. While on the trip, rampant inflation started, like nothing we'd ever seen before or heard of. All of a sudden, it was like we were living in the Old West. We stopped in one area and one person was selling food. He was selling crackers, like Ritz crackers, but he was selling them individually. Each cracker was selling for $1,000 each. People became very dangerous during this time. Out of desperation, families would work together to try to survive. People would steal anything they could get their hands on, even out in the open, and were willing to risk danger just to do it. Everything became valuable. Even old belts were valuable because these things could no longer be purchased at all. While on this trip, it was important for us to try to keep any meats as frozen as possible just to preserve their life. But absolutes and such things as food, safety, were no longer critical anymore. The most single important thing was food supplies, especially non-refrigerated foods. But things such as food safety was no longer critical. The most important thing was food itself, food supplies, especially non-refrigerated foods. Then, January 2 of 2021, Leslie had a dream. She was told this dream represents the church at large. I saw a lot of people represented the church, and they were in an amusement park. Everything was fun, but they started getting very hungry. All the restaurants and the food availability was gone. They were not able to get food at this amusement park, so they were leaving in droves. But when they left without their shoes. Now, it makes me wonder if they traded their shoes for food. They were all barefoot and very hungry. They were all looking for food, begging for even one piece of bread to give them. So you see, food is going to be very, very important. And apparently what I've been told is that there's about to be a shortage of food, a man-made created shortage of food, which, of course, your Moloch and Baal worshipers are really the people behind it. And they're the people behind it because they're getting arrested. Now let's go to June 30, 2020. This is summarized from Charles Turner. I saw people robbing each other, breaking into each other's homes, stealing things from cars on the street. People were stealing food. Did you hear that? People were stealing food and taking things from each other by force and willing to die for it. I said, "What's going on?" From above, I heard a voice speak and say, "Bloodshed." I was shown more people shooting each other. Everyone was carrying guns in the street. There was no police anywhere to police this issue or to bring order. It was complete chaos. Then, February 26th of 2020, Byron Searle, in this vision, the radio talk show host, became very serious in his tone and stated that it was being reported that several large cities were in lockdown because of COVID-19. People were being ordered to stay inside their homes or apartments. I saw what looked like a riot taking place. Parking lots were jam-packed with vehicles, car doors left wide open. People all over were wildly running about. I watched people running as fast as they could in almost every direction, screaming and shouting hysterically. I was observing complete and utter chaos and hysteria. Not one person was calm. All were running about, yelling, screaming, and crying. I asked, "What's going on?" The local National Guard were planning martial law, advising everyone to stay in their homes. I mean, what I've told you, be prepared to stay in your home for at least a year. He told me that nearly all of the store shelves were empty of food, water, and other goods. He said the people in the stores were acting like crazed, rabid animals, throwing cans of food at each other and stealing each other's carts. But I went in anyway. It was complete chaos, wild fighting, people at the checkout lines yelling and screaming at the cashiers because their debit or their credit cards were not working in the machines, and they had no cash. Had no cash, meaning if you had gold or silver coins there, that might be very important. People began to bypass the registers and just ran out of the stores without paying for the food in the carts. Then I saw people attacking the people who were running out with the food. Waiting mobs of people grabbed and beat the people who were leaving the store with food, taking all of the food, leaving the people injured and lying on the ground. Shelves emptied in minutes, like a pack of ravenous wolves or frenzied sharks fighting over the food. It was unbelievable to watch this take place. Everything in the store was totally destroyed. The doors were pulled off the refrigerators, freezer sections, broken down, thrown all over the floor, shelving units pushed over, knocked down, broken up. There was no food left at all, anywhere on the shelves. Everything was totally gone, completely wiped out. People had begun running back to the stockroom in search of food as the store was now cleaned out. They began tearing all of the boxes and the pallets apart, looking for food. Many of the boxes contained paper products and cleaning supplies, but all that was thrown aside because all the people wanted were food. I saw them find and take pet food because it was food. They acted like they hit the jackpot when they found dog food. I saw some people from local churches with terrified looks on their faces, crying because they were too late and there was nothing left. I asked, "Why did you not prepare for this?" After all, many watchmen have been warning for years this was coming. They said, "Well, I thought we would be gone before anything like this happened. We should have listened." People were fighting over what little remained. We began to hear gunshots. Bullets began flying everywhere, and many people were being hit. No one came to their aid. No police. They were just left on the floor, bleeding, injured, dying. Other people were taking food items from the people who had been shot. They were running out of the store. The clerks had all run away for fear of their lives. People were taking anything that was not tied down that they could carry out. Walmart? A war zone. Gun battles in the store and in the parking lot. Many people were dead or dying. I saw people run into TJ Maxx and the dollar store to their small food sections. People even ran into the movie theater, were fighting over the popcorn and candy. It seemed as if in 1 hour, everything had gone from normal to complete and utter chaos instantly. It was then I was reminded by the Lord that He had told me many times over the past several years this would be the case. That life as we knew it would change suddenly, instantly, and that most would not be prepared. Then I saw National Guard vehicles arriving. They quickly swooped in and shot anyone who was seen holding a weapon. The clampdown had begun. No one would be allowed on the street. Everyone must stay inside or be shot. As the vision ended, I heard the Lord say, "Why have you not prepared?"